What happens when America's most beloved late-night host faces off against a real-life prince who refuses to play by the rules? In just 32 seconds, one explosive comment would shatter the carefully crafted image of royal dignity and expose the entitled attitude that shocked an entire nation. Last night on The Late Show, what started as a routine celebrity interview quickly spiraled into television history. Behind the glittering lights of Studio 57, tensions were already brewing before the cameras even started rolling. Sources close to the production tell us that Prince Harry arrived nearly an hour late, demanding changes to the agreed-upon questions and insisting his security detail remain on stage throughout the interview. Stephen Colbert, known for his quick wit and professional demeanor, tried to maintain his trademark charm as the prince settled into the guest chair. The audience, packed with excited fans who had waited months for tickets, could sense something was different about this particular show. Welcome back to The Late Show. I'm here with Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. Colbert began with his signature smile, adjusting his tie as he always does when introducing a list guests. Thank you for being here tonight. The prince barely looked up from his phone, offering only a dismissive wave to the cheering crowd. Yeah, sure, he muttered, his voice carrying an air of boredom that immediately caught Colbert off guard. Colbert, ever the professional, pressed forward. So Harry, I have to ask about your new book. The whole world is talking about it. What made you decide to share such personal stories about your family? Look, Stephen, can we just get through this quickly? I have somewhere important to be, Harry interrupted, not even waiting for the question to finish. His tone was sharp, completely different from the warm, relatable persona he usually presented to American audiences. The studio fell silent. Even the cameramen exchanged worried glances. This was not the Prince Harry that Americans had grown to love. Colbert's eyebrows raised slightly, but he maintained his composure. Well, I'm sure our audience would love to hear about the book. They've been looking forward to this conversation for weeks. The audience? Harry scoffed, finally looking directly at Colbert for the first time. Do you really think I care what these people think? I'm only here because my publicist insisted. This whole American talk show circuit is beneath me, honestly. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Several audience members could be heard whispering in disbelief. This was not the humble, down-to-earth prince they had expected to see. Colbert's smile faltered for just a moment, but he quickly recovered. Years of live television had taught him to handle difficult guests, though none quite like this. I think you might be underestimating our audience, Harry. These are some of the smartest, most engaged people in America. Smart? Harry laughed coldly. They're sitting in a television studio audience on a Tuesday night? How smart can they really be? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Colbert's jaw tightened, and for the first time in his career, he looked genuinely angry on camera. The prince had just insulted not only his audience, but everything Colbert stood for as a broadcaster. I think we need to take a step back here, Colbert said, his voice noticeably cooler. These people took time out of their lives to be here tonight. They deserve respect. Harry rolled his eyes dramatically. Respect? From me? Do you know who I am? I'm a Prince of England. These people should be grateful I'm even in the same building as them. The audience began to murmur more loudly now. Some people were shaking their heads in disgust, while others sat in stunned silence. This was not the Prince Harry they thought they knew. Colbert leaned forward in his chair, his trademark playfulness completely gone. Actually, Harry, I think you're confused about something. In America, we don't bow to anyone. Your title doesn't mean what you think it means here. Oh, please, Harry waved dismissively. You Americans are obsessed with royalty. Look at how you fawn over my grandmother, my father, my brother. You can't get enough of us. There's a difference between interest and worship, Colbert replied firmly, and there's definitely a difference between respect and entitlement. Harry's face darkened. Entitlement? I'm not entitled. I've earned everything I have through birthright and service. Birthright isn't earning, Harry. That's literally the definition of entitlement, Colbert shot back, his voice rising slightly. The prince stood up abruptly, his microphone nearly falling off his lapel. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know what my family has sacrificed? What I've sacrificed. Colbert remained seated, his calm demeanor making Harry's outburst look even more childish. I know what sacrifice looks like, and it doesn't involve complaining about your privileged life on television. Privileged? Harry's voice cracked with indignation. You have no idea what it's like to be me. The pressure, the expectations, the constant scrutiny. You're right, I don't know what it's like to be born into unimaginable wealth and opportunity, Colbert said, his words cutting through the tension like a knife. But I do know what it's like to work for everything I have. The studio audience began to applaud, slowly at first, then building to a thunderous ovation. They were clearly siding with their beloved host over the increasingly hostile prince. Harry's face turned red with anger. "Turn off the cameras! Turn them off right now!" "We're live, Harry. This is live television," Colbert explained, his voice deadly calm. "I don't care. I want those cameras off. This interview is over." Colbert looked directly into the camera, addressing his audience at home. "Well, folks, it looks like we're experiencing some technical difficulties with our guest tonight." "Technical difficulties?" Harry screamed. "I am not a technical difficulty. I am a prince." "And that's exactly the problem," Colbert replied, his voice now ice cold. "You think being a prince gives you the right to treat people like garbage?" Harry pointed an accusatory finger at the host. "I have treated no one like garbage. I simply expect a certain level of respect that comes with my position. Respect is earned, not inherited," Colbert fired back, rising from his chair for the first time. "And you've done nothing tonight but disrespect every single person in this building." The prince laughed bitterly. "Oh, this is rich. A late-night talk show host is going to lecture me about respect? You make jokes for a living, Stephen. You're essentially a court jester." The audience gasped audibly. Several people could be heard saying, "Oh no, he didn't," and "That's too far." Even the production crew, usually invisible during tapings, were staring in shock. Colbert's eyes flashed with anger, but his voice remained controlled. "You know what, Harry? You're absolutely right. I do make jokes for a living, but at least I work for my money. At least I earn the respect of my audience every single night." "Work?" Harry scoffed. "You call this work? Sitting behind a desk, reading jokes someone else wrote for you? Please." "Someone else wrote?" Colbert's voice rose for the first time. "Harry, I've been writing comedy for 25 years. I built this career from nothing." "What exactly have you built?" Harry's face contorted with rage. "I've served my country. I've been in combat. I've done more in my 38 years than you'll do in your entire pathetic life." The studio fell dead silent. The comment hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Colbert stood perfectly still for several seconds, his face unreadable. "You know what, Harry?" Colbert said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's time for you to leave." "Excuse me?" Harry stammered, clearly not expecting this response. "You heard me. Get off my stage. Get out of my studio. This interview is over." Harry's mouth dropped open. "You can't kick me off. I'm your guest. I'm a prince. And this is my show," Colbert replied firmly. "In my studio, on my stage, with my audience. Your royal title means absolutely nothing here." The audience erupted in applause, jumping to their feet in a standing ovation. The sound was deafening, drowning out Harry's protests. "This is outrageous," Harry shouted over the applause. "No one dismisses me. No one." Colbert walked around his desk, moving closer to the prince. "Harry, you have two choices. You can walk out of here with whatever dignity you have left, or security will escort you out. What's it going to be?" Harry looked around the studio wildly, as if searching for support. The audience continued cheering for Colbert. The production crew stood frozen, watching history unfold before their eyes. "You'll regret this," Harry snarled. "Do you have any idea who you're messing with? My family has connections everywhere. We can destroy your pathetic little career." Colbert smiled for the first time since the confrontation began. "Harry, my career was built on making fun of people exactly like you. Entitled, out of touch, completely disconnected from reality. You threatening me is like Christmas morning." The audience roared with laughter and approval. Harry's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Fine," Harry spat. "I don't need this. I don't need any of you. You're all beneath me anyway." He started to storm off the stage, but Colbert called after him. "Harry, wait. Before you go, I want you to look at this audience one more time." Harry stopped and turned around reluctantly. "These are teachers, firefighters, nurses, small business owners. These are the people who make America work. These are the people who actually matter. And you just spent the last 15 minutes insulting every single one of them." Harry's voice cracked slightly. "I don't care about these people. Why should I care about these people? Because without these people, without regular working Americans, you're nothing. Your whole celebrity, your whole platform in this country, it all depends on people like this caring about you. And after tonight, I don't think they ever will again." The truth of Colbert's words seemed to hit Harry like a physical blow. For the first time all evening, he appeared genuinely shaken. I didn't mean," Harry started, but Colbert cut him off. "Yes, you did mean it. Every word. That's who you really are when the cameras are rolling and you think you're safe. That's the real Prince Harry." Harry straightened his jacket, trying to regain his composure. "You have no idea what you've done tonight, Stephen. No idea at all." "I know exactly what I've done," Colbert replied calmly. "I've shown America who you really are, and I think they can make their own decisions about what that means." Harry turned and walked toward the exit, his security detail scrambling to follow. Just before he reached the door, he spun around one final time. "This won't be forgotten," he called out. Colbert nodded. "I'm counting on it." As the door closed behind the prince, the studio exploded in the loudest applause in late show history. Colbert stood alone on his stage, looking out at his audience with a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. "Well, folks," he said, loosening his tie, "that's not exactly how we plan to spend our Tuesday night." The audience laughed and cheered, still on their feet. "You know, in 20 years of television, I've never had to ask a guest to leave before. But sometimes you have to stand up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We'll be right back after this commercial break. And don't worry, our musical guest is still coming out. I promise they'll be much more pleasant company." As the show cut to commercial, the audience continued their standing ovation. In those final moments before the break, Stephen Colbert had reminded everyone watching exactly why he had become one of America's most trusted voices. He had chosen his audience, his values, and his integrity over celebrity and controversy. And in doing so, he had delivered one of the most memorable moments in late-night television history.